What's up, guys? Welcome back to the video. In today's video, we're gonna be doing just a war video, but it's gonna be what if Europe was splitting to two. But as you can see, the red team definitely has a disadvantage because it's split at the Polish and German border. So the red team definitely has a disadvantage. And since the blue team has Russia, I ended up giving the red team the US, but the US is just as powerful as Russia. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, let's just get right into it. Also, before I continue, I forgot to say this, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel, and it helps me grow, and when I grow, I produce more videos for you guys, and yeah. So, we're gonna start off over here, in here where this started, because, well, you have it pretty much leading to one of the main big fights, because obviously Sweden, East Sweden is stronger than West Sweden, and Northern Sweden is stronger. Wait, no, Southern. South Norway is stronger than East Norway, but yeah. So you have Norway end up taking most of their land back because obviously they aren't as strong because, well, there's barely anybody living up there, and they move through Sweden to do that. Finland's army was not ready and mobilized at this point, so they were able to move into Finland. Obviously, there was some fighting back, but eventually all of Norway was taken. None of Russia, though. Russia starts to send up troops, and the front line is started down here in Italy. And surprisingly, this boot was able to last 1 day longer than northern Sweden, not Sweden, Norway, and they collapsed pretty much immediately. And the next country is to collapse is that, and surprisingly Czechia, because Poland was not really supporting them. They were mostly focused on the German border. But they eventually decided to send down troops there. But by the time the troops got down there, Germany had started to invade and also had started to well, they already took Czechia. But that led to Poland being able to take back. Also, guys, the thing that I used, they updated a little bit, so I can now make them invade countries faster. There was a little bit of troops getting circled up there, but to the point of, well, they were able to, well, they just get wiped out. That's pretty much it. And also, guys, so I gave up on the alternate history because those videos, well, they're doing well, but this would be after the third time that I would have to restart because I lost the map again. So I'm thinking on starting a new series, and I don't know what, though. So if you guys want to see Roblox videos come back, please comment, say, yeah, we want Roblox videos back. I'll bring them back. Germany is able to push into Poland a little bit up here, but something that they don't expect is, well, the Germans don't expect is for Poland to be loading up Slovakia with troops, which leads to some land being gained back, and even putting to Hungary, which leads to their capital being taken back. And okay, yeah, it just looks like this. It looks like that. So there. Now with that, you have a lot of Germans not being so happy, but that's pretty much just the soldiers because of the bad commanding that the generals are doing. So there's a little bit of rise up that happens, and the soldiers just decide to do what they do best, invade Poland. And they actually kind of took back what the World War II people were doing, like people in World War II did. It's just they don't have the USSR to invade, but they are able to hold out a front line at there, and also push back the Czechs a little bit, and also the Austria. I need to keep on fixing this. Okay, and now also, this country does eventually start to fall, which leads to a break into the red front line, because, well, Slovenia and Italy were not ready for that, because they were not expecting these guys to be loading up troops into here and then getting ready to send it down into Italy, which does end up happening to Italy and Slovenia. So the US troops are starting to get here. Yes, they were doing all of this without US troops. Also, well, a little bit of pushing in is now happening here. But Russia decides to pull out their troops from up here, which leads to a very big collapse in the blue team's front line. And it leads to a very big push from the red team in Sweden, and also not just Sweden. It also leaves a very big push into Finland. So obviously no borders will be looking the same, because if these guys, when they're gonna be doing more than this, so honestly, Norway might not even exist, but you have them not really focusing on borders. Well, not the blue team. They're mostly focusing on the middle of the country, but eventually the Finland army is here and they are ready to do stuff, but it wasn't as good as they were expecting it to be. They weren't able to push them out fully. Also, Sweden had to take out troops from this Sweden because of the massive invasion. By some, I mean all troops, but that did end up going pretty well, because these guys are actually being suffocated right now. These guys right there, because they blew up the bridge right there in between that lake, so they kind of had to do this and take out troops from there. But instead of going through, instead of keep on trying to go around, now that they removed the troops from right here, they decided to push into Sweden from right here. So removing those troops from that border was not the smart decision, because Sweden's capital is right there, which is not good, because, well, they reached all the way back up, and so Sweden is now facing the hardest invasion of the blue team. Maybe the second hardest, because, you know, Poland. But still, you have US troops finally being able to reach this front line. They won't be upping Sweden or Norway for the next little bit. But Russian troops are also just arriving, which leads to a massive break in the front line, and also leads to a little bit of a push right here, and which leads to Czechia getting their independence back, and same with this Austria, which, well, not fully with Austria. The lower part of Austria does stay under control of the Germans, and, well, pretty much the Austrians, but let's be honest, Germany is obviously probably going to annex Austria after this war, because Austria is going to be so out of people, and they're pretty much just going to be dead. And actually, that happens during the war. So this Austria is starting to collapse to the point of no return. So they decide to go ahead and just join Germany, because, well, it was the smartest decision. This also leaves the front line open for Germany, and also one more person decides to join, which is Luxembourg. I need to make this a little bit smaller. So there. And Czechia does not want to join Germany, but they're starting to realize that it might be the best choice because of some decisions that they've made. But the US people are able to push back the Russians a little bit. And you gotta remember, the US Army is obviously has to come on boats. So they have to come from over here, go all the way, make it to the... Here, 1 second, let me just show you guys. So, what the US has to do is they have to leave the US, come down, and then fight. So, Germany pretty much wants the other part of Austria, and Austria, this actually boosts morale in Austria, because that shows them that Austria is weak, liberates them, and this front line right here also claps a little bit more, which leads to more invading of Italy. So, with this, you have some pushing happening into Austria, well, the Austria part of Germany, which leads it to looking like this. And Austria is actually kind of glad that they're part of Germany still, because, well, the Germans, they have the largest front line, except for Sweden and Norway, but they have the second largest front line that they have to fight off now, because of this all the way down to here. Because let's be honest, well, we know it doesn't really look like that. It goes down to here. Because let's be honest, Italy and Germany's doing most of the work in this areas, then Germany and the US. So yeah, let's be honest, guys. But yeah, which now leads to Germany being able to push back a little bit, but their main focus is the Polish border, because if they can break through Poland, then they can push into Ukraine, take out Ukraine, and then circle back and take out these guys. So they don't really focus on this front line. They focused on Poland, which leads it to looking like that. And also, Germany decides to make a smart decision. One smart decision is focus on Czechia for a little bit, so they can take some land, because, well, look, they border that, but you finally have, so Czechia has offered Germany land for troops, because, well, yeah, Germany's starting to realize that they're doing most work in here, which now leads to, Germany taking that, which is pretty much the Rhinelands. This isn't going to be another World War II Germany type part, guys. I'm not doing that, don't worry. It's just, these countries are kind of becoming one with Germany because of how many German speakers and how much easier it would just be for the country. But, see, that cripples them. So, they obviously have manpower now. But they shouldn't have taken that deal, even though they made that deal. Because, well, Germany was using most of their land to push into them. But, well, they go ahead and decide to, they pretty much collapse. And Germany now says, oh, great. We just lost another ally, didn't we? And they say, yep. So, Germany's probably going to have to annex them if they want to stay alive, which does end up happening. So the Germans push back in. Okay, so at least it's looking like this, but that opens up the front line some more, which leads to a cut off of troops right here, and a push in from the blue team. And the blue team does push back in Poland also. Don't think that they are going to lose for a second, because this is actually kind of like a back and forth stalemate. Germany looks like they're about to go full force, and then Poland pushes back. The one problem that Poland has is that now people are trying to leave this area, but they need people in this area. Because of one very important reason. It's being invaded 24/7, which means that, well, they want people to leave, but at the same time they don't, because that means people might go ahead and rebel on the Germans and go ahead and decide to fight back. But we finally have Sweden collapsing, because let's be honest, we kind of saw this coming. And next was this little part of Finland, because they were being suffocated, except for the Russians. But the Russians, see, it's really cold right here. The Russians, they don't care about up here. The farthest that, they're just holding troops out here. Well, no, they're holding troops out here. So on that line, that's where the Russian troops are from there. Which leads to a very big invasion happening from here, because this is a wasteland pretty much. And then they finally meet those Russian troops, and the upper half of Finland collapses over because they evacuated that area, and they got everybody out. And with them finally meeting those Russian troops, their advance will be slowing down a lot. Because, well, they're Russia. What can't they do? But they realize that if they let Finland collapse and then go ahead and invade them, they can get land from Finland, so they move their troops down to that white line. And they hold this front line like that now. So it's pretty much Finland troops up here, Russian troops down here, but the Finland troops were not able to hold off the U.S. troops because the U.S. troops are there now, and it's not looking so good. They break through that front line quite fast, but it eventually does slow down, because obviously there are still Russians up there, because they don't want the Finland people to know fully what the Russians are doing. And it does look like Russia is actually able to pull this off, but they aren't, but they are at the same time. So it's about time that Italy starts to get bullied, because, well, they say, remember in World War I where you just switch sides? Yeah, you should do that again. Yeah, that also a massive naval invasion happened down here, and they got this ally back, this blue person back. So now Italy is slowly starting to collapse because of, well, they have a lot of naval invasions happening over here. And honestly, the French are starting to realize if they reach the Mediterranean on this side, the French are screwed. So they are sending mass amount of troops over into Italy, which leads to a little bit of pushback right here. And also some pushback over here because the French, they really don't want to be pushed into. But up here, they got pushed back, but then the blue team decided to come back harder and push back the French like crazy. And if they can reach this area, the French are going to have to start mobilize their full army. And the French are already ready, and they have their army right here. They have their army up here. That's where they're holding out most of their army. Britain's army is mostly out here on this front line. And the Germans' army is pretty much right now. And if you're wondering where the US's army is, it's on every single front line. So, Italy definitely does not want to lose this area, because this is their main money area. But eventually they get cut off from that area, which now leads to that getting collapsed. And now the French people are now, well, they now know. Obviously, it doesn't look like that. There is still Italy troops over here. But at this point, Italy just decides to roll over and die. They do hold out in their islands, except for Sicily. Sicily collapses also, because, well, yeah. So, Italians are just holding out in this area. And the French go ahead, are now starting to be pushed into, but very little, because you gotta remember, they were holding out there. Switzerland is still somehow able to not die yet, but they end up, yeah, they just leave it like that. They are pushing to, but not too much. So you're starting to see where the blue team is overpowering the red team. So it's time for the US to send over a new fleet of army. And they just arrived in the German front line, which leads to this stalemate breaking on the German side. So it's good for the Germans. And it actually goes really well for the Germans because of this new fleet. It's mostly just in Germany. Like 83.2% of it is in Germany. Well, with the German fleet. They take this, and there. Obviously, it does start to slow down because the Russians are like, whoa. And the Russians send over a new fleet also, which is able to push the Germans and the US back, but not as far as they were able to before. And that's pretty much the new thing that the Germans and US people are doing. They're pushing them back farther, and then the Germans go ahead, but then the Russians don't have enough manpower there to take out this. But you do now have some people starting to decide to join Poland, like this Czechia and the other Czechia, which just leads to this land being taken. This border's just going to be erased by that color, because let's be honest, that's what it was. Okay. Which does lead to this front line collapsing a little bit, but not too much. You have very little movement now happening, except for up here. And also one more country decides to join them, which actually sets off a very big boom of events. No, I'm just kidding. The Austrians are more Germans, so they don't join. They want to, but Poland is like, nah. We've had an off history with you guys, so maybe not. The Polish people are finally able to push them somewhat out of the Czechia area. And now with these newfound troops and new money that they have and new Russian troops, they were able to push the Germans back all the way back to the border, except for up there. And then it starts to go down a little bit, but very little movement is now made except for the push to connect these two front lines. And the Polish people make a smart decision and decide not to go. Not smart decision. They decide not to go for the capital of Berlin, which is not smart because the Germans are now freaking out. So that leads to that leads them to remove troops from Poland. But don't worry, the US are there. The US is there, so nothing happens. Except for Germany starting to realize that, hey, maybe we should actually just start to bring our troops into our own country and start to push them out before we decide to invade anyone else. And you know what? The US says, you know what? That's fair. I did not scroll down. Which now leads to the rest of Italy now looking in shambles. They are thinking, what did we do? Honestly. Like, what did we do to deserve this? But Italy was not able to be pushed out and liberated, but you know who was? Germany. Obviously, Germany was not ready to push back in yet, but they were ready to push at least a little bit back in. Germany decides to take a little bit break, and they decide to rebuild up their army because they still have the largest front line and the toughest front line. They now have the largest front line because if we were to zoom out, let's take a look at this because they have to deal with this front line there. And the blue team only has to deal with this up here. So also there's some German troops over here, so we'll just put it like that. So Germany definitely has the longest front line that they have to focus on. Not so over here, just more so in, yeah. But you can see where why Germany's having a struggle. But you gotta remember, they still have a very large economy. We're gonna say that this doesn't affect anyone's economy, just to make this war a little bit more interesting. But that also brings Germany power back up because, well, since they haven't lost any money during this war, they've only pretty much gained money. They decide to take a break from this front line, send troops up there, and help them finish off Finland. And at this point, it's mostly just Russians in Finland, so the border is now moved back from Finland and Russia. By Finland and Russia, I mean Russia is now just sending a lot of people and troops up there. So this is pretty much just Russian territory now. It even just goes out into there, and then it comes down, goes out, and then there. Like that, and like that. And then the Russians decide to start doing the same thing up here. So they decide to take back the Finland border. Because obviously there's not many troops over here. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. So yeah, now with that, looks like this. And also they do the same thing on this front line, well, this border. And Finland is forced to give up land back to Russia. And Russia's starting to realize how well this is going for them, which leads to more chitter-chatter of Finland just deciding to join Russia because, well, NATO has obviously collapsed at this point. When as soon as this war started, they collapsed. And they decide to take back the rest of their land. And they do the same thing on the Norwegian border or whatever. And same with more Finland. So Finland is getting more crippled because, well, there's more Russian speakers here, and Finland is just starting to collapse and falling to Russia's control. Because if you look at that, there's no more Finland. It's just, well, obviously there's still Finland. It's just now more Russian speakers are becoming there because of the troops, and, well, kids are starting to have to learn Russian to help the army. And so now there's just a lot more Russian speakers, and also Russia decides to take some land. So Russia's doing some crazy stuff right now. They're pulling off the invasion of a history. Obviously they're not going to push back into Sweden. Maybe they will. They'll just push out to there, hold a front line there. But something that they are trying to do is take back Finland, because Finland is going to be a very powerful ally. But you want to know something that the Finland government does? Because obviously there's still like a little bit of, here, let's do this. The capital was not captured yet, we'll say, because I believe it's in that area. And you know what? They decide, the people in there decide to hold a new election. And who they elect is really pro-Russian. So, yeah, they're pretty much just a Russian puppet now. But the Russians do liberate some, and and what they say is, Finland says is, if you can somehow free us, we will give you all our land. And that really boosts Russia's motivation, which now leads to quite a big push. No, I'm kidding. Not that big of a push, but that's like 46. We need 13. Yeah, 13 should be good. Which leads to quite a big push, and I believe it should have taken back the capital by now. If not, please correct me, guys, if I don't know where the capital is. But, yeah. Just say it's not there, it's somewhere else. But Russia is liberating most of them. And now we have a new country. It's called it's called Rusland. Yeah, it's called Rusland. Because this Finland, well, they take back all of their land. Well, obviously, it's not new, but, like, it's Rusland. But Russia asked for a little bit of land so they can move their people out. And they say, you know what, sure, the Finland government. And honestly, people don't really care if they become one with Russia, because, well, honestly, Russia, they're pretty much the only reason why they're alive. So they just decide to straight up just give up to Russia, the country. Which now leads to a big push, because, well, now they are technically in Russia, which is not good. Okay, so, with Russia being able to take most of their land back, when I say most, I mean most. But there are some people that decide that they don't really want to be a part of Russia, and they live up here, closer to the people, well, closer to the enemy troops. So, we have a new country, it's called Finland. And Finland has somehow switched sides, guys. I don't know how I did that, because I just realized that it's supposed to be 50-50. You know what? Strange things can happen. Because it's also mostly these troops, so may as well. Okay. Next off, you finally have the Germans ready to push back in to Poland. And they have they are ready. When I say they took a break, I mean they took a break to rebuild a massive army. And with the US's help, because they just sent over a new fleet to hold off, and then the Germans said, okay, we're ready. And they said, oh, do you need a new fleet? They said, yeah, we'll take a new one. Which now leads to a very big part of Poland collapsing over to the Germans. And yeah. Also, a lot of land has fallen over to Germany, which leads it looking like this. Also, guys, nothing's gonna happen like this in the future because, well, obviously we have organizations to stop this from happening. But yeah. So, as you can see, Poland is now crippled, and they are ready to collapse right into Germany's hands. But this is when Ukraine decides to mobilize their army and push back, and Russia sends over a very big fleet, which now leads to a very big push. And you know what, guys? I feel like I'm so confident that in my skills, that I will be able to use. Nope, I already messed it up. Okay, never mind. But yeah, no, okay, I'm gonna go just straight back to this. But you have them moving back quite fast, because they're starting to realize that if they don't, then they're gonna lose this war. Because obviously, Russia, if they were able to get through Belarus and Ukraine, they just send it right through into Russia. But instead of deciding to push up through there, they decide to push out into here, and they now see what they are trying to do, and it's actually working pretty well, because, well, guess which countries just collapsed, guys? These blue ones. Which immediately cuts off these guys, which now leads to these guys being able to come back, and some of Italy is able to come back. Like the top part of Italy is able to come back. So like right there. So that part of Italy is able to come back now, and there you go. But the only reason why this is standing out is because, well, they're just sending over troops from this little area. We're just right there, and then sending it up. So you finally have the Polish people back, and Poland decides to take a break also, not sending over their military for a little bit, but the Russians are able to push the Germans back. And actually, it does work in a kind of weird way, because, well, the Germans push down on here, the Russians don't really care, and up on here. But what the Russians do is they're just pushing like this. So, we have something like a claw now, like someone going like... yeah, it's weird. So, with that now being held there, Germany now has the largest front line. Ain't guaranteed. On the blue, it's probably Russia. Like, I'm saying where the most troops are. Because German troops are stretched out from all the way up there to all the way down here. So they are stretched out from here to here. The Russian troops are also stretched out, but they are just stretched out from here, because they obviously have to follow there, and then to there. All the way down to there. And even some Russian troops over here. So, I guess Russia's over there. So Russia has the largest front line, I guess, now, because of Finland. But it doesn't really matter, because they have troops. Well, they have allies over here. And the Baltics start to realize the major of this is happening, and they decide to start pushing, like, actually start to take this war seriously. Because, well, they didn't actually think that this was going to start to affect them. But now that it's in Hungary, well, Hungary's gone, and it's now starting to enter Romania and Serbia, not Siberia, Serbia. Because it took all of this. They should have started taking it seriously. Like, the blue team, they never really took the red team seriously. Even when they got Russia. They never took them seriously. They should have. Because, well, now the Baltics are kind of forced to join into one country. We're going to say that they're able to. Because, you know, a lot of different people don't like each other. And they decide to include Serbia and Greece. We're going to say that since they're all on the same team, they like each other. I know that's impossible. But, yeah. Romania is obviously... Romania, Serbia, and, Albania and Greece are the main heads of this country. And you know who else wants to join this? Well, who else wants to join this is Moldova and Ukraine. But Ukraine is now split up into two. Because, well, the blue team is now finding that it's more useful just to join into one big country. But they don't want to combine the Russians with them because, well, they're Russia. So they don't really want to join with Russia. So, yeah. And they're just finding it easier just to join into one big country. And now Ukraine is, well, the lower part of Ukraine is big. And Poland, they decide to stay part of, like, their own country. The very reason why is because, well, Poland, they have had the hardest time. And if they end up collapsing, they're going to have to join into one. I messed that up. I'm supposed to erase that border. Okay, there. There we go. I fixed it, guys. Because obviously Belarus would want to join the Russians. And these guys have no other choice but to join the Russians. And people like these guys, they want to join, but they don't really have a say in it because, well, they're pretty much taken apart. Well, they're just a part of, well, they're filled with red team troops, and who really wants that? But they have a rule. Their capital is obviously down here at the lowest point. There's a still right there. So yeah, they don't really want to lose their capital. So if the red team is somehow able to make it down here, and hit their capital, then they will join the Russians. But Poland at this point decides to join Russia because they have a lot of Russian troops. And also these guys are starting to be able to be taken back by Russia. But now the blue team is pretty much split into two because of... So the blue team is still working together, but not 100%. Because, well, if you look at it, well, you can just see that Russia has taken most of the land. I forgot to color these backing. You go back. Okay. So, but you eventually have, them being able to convince, Turkey not to join, because they really don't want Turkey in there. They don't know why. Turkey doesn't know why. They're more closer to the Russians anyways. But what does end up happening is they are able to slowly start to take back some old countries, like this one. They pushed them out. So they got to... Hungary decides to be split into two. The Russians, which looks like this. So now you kind of have the blue team going into a Cold War phase, which is really not good. Because, well, that means that there's going to be tensions in between an alliance, which means the collapse of the alliance. So this border goes away because of that. They decide to stay one, and also their border goes away. But yeah, they go ahead and decide to push back in, And I'm just going to erase borders when they're getting pushed back into, because let's be honest, they'd probably just be taken in as one of their own. But Russia and this massive Balkan blob decides to stop being in this Cold War phase and decides to actually focus on the real enemy, which is the Red Team. Speaking about the Red Team, well, the Red Team was able to do stuff while they were going in their whole Cold War phase in Poland. Yeah, that did not go so well for them, because, well, their Cold War phase pretty much just went into, which left Russia open to lose Finland, which happened, and now Russia is being pushed into, and Russia is trying to realize their mistakes. And you can start to see that the Red Team is going to win because of some things that because of the decisions that they've made. Guys, because of this mess that I've started, I'm not going to be drawing a peace treaty. Because I don't feel like drawing hundreds of borders. Because let's be honest, the Balkans would collapse into thousands of people. But at this point, the blue team is collapsing so fast, especially this Balkan blob, collapses so fast that they barely have time to join Russia. But this actually does turn out well for them, because, well, Russia allows Turkey to join, which now leaves us at this, where they are able to push back the Red Team a little bit. Well, not just a little bit. It is actually quite a lot compared to what the Red Team just had. But at this point, Russia is getting pushed on hard from the top. Well, this is actually a Russian-Turkey country now. Those are the two people that control this country, the two countries. And at this point, Russia is collapsing so fast that they barely have time to say vodka. And now their capital is taken and their country is splitting into two. And it's now kind of just the Ottomans because, well, the Russian part of the country decides to collapse. But don't worry, most troops are in this area anyways. Actually, and these guys are actually doing a really good job at holding out this area. They're like concealed. Like, they're just not having anything. They're just, yeah. But slowly and surely, the Turks are going to collapse. But something that they weren't expecting is it to take 10 whole years. So, after 10 years, you finally have the front line continue to move at a very rapid pace. Because in 10 years, the front line looks like this. Greece collapses. Istanbul collapses. Not Istanbul. You know. And then they start to naval invade and push out from here. And Turkey collapses. But the only thing that happened to these guys in 10 years is actually they got more land. Is they were somehow able to push and take these islands, and also somehow able to take some land. So, yeah, good for them. Also, this country decides to kind of just join. Because, well, they're mostly just guys anyways, so you guys can make up your own you guys can make up your own little thing. You guys can make up your own peace treaty. I'm not doing this after this monstrous country was made. This hideous thing. I don't know what I was thinking. Cause like who would actually think that this country was gonna happen? Like at the beginning of this, I didn't even think that the Red Team was gonna win. That's why I added the U.S. Because I started to realize, I was like, yeah, they might be able to get the upper hand for a little bit, but then they would lose. So, I'm not drawing the front. I'm not drawing the peace treaty for that, guys. I hope you guys know that. Because, well, that's hideous. That country is a monster. I feel like Finland would be able to get some land back, at least, from their old country. But, like, this is a no. Like, no. I don't see the Balkans ever being able to unite. Because of how much drama there is in there. But, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And, peace.